Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we have come across an introductory guide to scrimming in Overwatch. And I personally am of the belief that anyone who can find their way into the scrim scene should generally do so. It is kind of the most fun way to enjoy Overwatch, so I'm happy to see this post here. I've already given it an upvote. Maybe we'll take that upvote away if the guide is terrible, but we're going to review this. We're going to see what they say here. Not because I expect it to be terrible. Like I said, I haven't read it. I actually want to give it a little bit of a signal boost because I would like more people to be scrimming. It's fun. It's good for the scene. It does all sorts of cool stuff. And you get to do organized play, which is really the way Overwatch was meant to be enjoyed. Speaking of which, if you guys are enjoying this type of content, my reviewing other stuff, do go ahead and click like down there. Or if you have been here before and you're like, I find myself watching some of these temporal videos, do consider subscribing if you haven't already. But I'm going to get through this, and here we go. An introductory guide to scrimming in Overwatch, a basic guide to the basics of organized play. So we're double emphasizing basic plus introductory there. So I guess we need to wear the kitty gloves for this one and be somewhat gentle. Are you tired of levers, throwers, hackers, and smurfs ruining your games? Citation needed that that's actually happening, but it's a catchy first sentence. I'll go with it. Are you tired of your fate being determined by the whims of Blizzard Matchmaker? Again, I don't love playing into this, but I get it. You're trying to do a catchy one-liner to get them, two-liner now. Are you sick of the weirdos in comp being meanies for no reason? Meanies for no reason. Okay. Do you want to improve at this game and win tournaments? Are you sad that comp really rewards solo plays and you want to have teamwork in this game? This is probably a little less true than we're emphasizing here. Supporting other people's plays is an amazing way to go up through most of comp. Like, it is an amazing way if you figure out, wait, you're a Genji and you can support other people's plays. You're a McCree and you can support other people's plays. Like, that's amazing. You're a Brig and, you go bodyguard for your Ana rather than try to brawl for yourself. It's amazing. Supporting other people's plays is amazing. I would object to this. That said, if you answered yes to any of these questions, you should try scrimming. So I like this. I like what this is. This is a hook. This is how he's formatted his guide with like, hey, some things to hook you in, some stuff to pull you in. I want that, so you'll keep reading. That's just good basic writing. But like, you don't then make this your title. You don't go to all the effort to come up with this sort of like, oh, catchy, we're going to bring you in, when your title, which is actually what people see when they're looking through subreddit, was an introductory guide to scrimming in Overwatch, and then parentheses, a basic guide to the basics of organized play. This is dry and boring and not going to attract people who weren't already thinking about scrimming or don't already know about scrimming, and this is not. Like, this plus try scrimming, a basic guide, would have been a much better title than what we went with for the title if we're trying to increase visibility here. Who am I and why am I qualified? My name is 037, and for the last year, I played for the Overwatch team, Blues Clues Bandits. Nice. By the way, chat, I will catch up on you guys. If you want to jump to the front of the queue, get in here. You can always throw up a super chat, and I will deal with those as they come up because I am bribable. But other than that, I will catch up with chat at certain sections in here. We'll probably go through, read the guide, catch up with chat, check out the comments, catch up with chat again. If there's any other work linked in here, we might look into that as well, and we might take breaks for that. But here we go. So he was with Blues Clues Bandits, or was. Went from 3,200 to 4,100, and that's nice. He was with them for a year, so that was a team. That was a nice bonded team, hung out together for a long time. This isn't necessarily going to be every scrim team's experience, where they spend a lot of time together as a team. I've seen that, and it's really awesome when you do, and you can get really good at your teamwork, get really good at your stuff, and you can do things where even if your players don't individually move up tons and tons in SR, though they will move up some in SR, they can challenge teams that are 500 SR above them and beat them, compete with them, whatever. Like 500 SR above the actual player's level of SR because their dives are that clean. They actually understand the rotations. They can do rotational baits and fakes to like trigger a dive and then back out and then push back in and run them over. Like they get to do these things even without having leveled themselves up individually because some scrim skills are not going to get to be used that often in ladder, and some ladder skills you know, yes, you're going to use them in a scrim, but you can compensate by having some of these other skills. So this I can now see is going to be colored from someone who got to do this, and this is fantastic, but it's not necessarily going to be everyone's scrim experience. But I've seen this scrim experience. It's amazing. Good on him. I have 229 hours in scrims over the past year, proof, and while I would never call myself an expert on scrimming, I think that I am qualified to talk about the basics around organized play and write an introductory guide, okay? If I get anything wrong, feel free to tell me in the comments. I sort of did. I made a comment saying, hey, we're going to review here. Okay, we have our first super chat coming in from Adam in Charge for $2 saying, look at this poor nerd. He thinks he's important. I appreciate the $2 super chat there. And if we have the writer of this, if we have 037 watching this, don't worry. Adam is not insulting you. He's insulting me, but I'll take that. Okay. So we have put in the comments, and we don't know if you got anything wrong yet. What is a scrim? A scrim is when two teams composed of all players who know each other play in a custom lobby. I mean, sort of. Like, each team knows their own players. It's not necessarily true that everyone on both teams knows each other. So that's a little bit of a weird way to phrase that. But okay. Usually for 2-hour blocks, almost always. The only time it's not is when it's a warm-up block. And those will generally be 1 hour or until the match starts, with the goal of improving together and getting better at teamwork. Sometimes you'll do a double block, but usually you'd get different teams for each of those, which would be 4 hours. Scrims are generally treated as a more serious environment than competitive. Yes, in the hierarchy, you have officials, you have scrim, you have comp, and then you have, I don't know, memeing in Discord, quick play, warm-ups, whatever you want to call them. Like, not warm-up scrims, but like, warming up in training range even. Aim codes, whatever. Okay. Where everyone is always trying their best. However, that doesn't mean you can't also have a ton of fun. It is a ton of fun. Trying their best, sure, I can go with that. I'm not going to object to that. I don't know that I'd say everyone is always trying their best. Sometimes teams do get tilted. Sometimes it does turn into a stomp one way or the other, but that's okay. And also people are, the coach might be insisting that they work on a specific strategy. They're not trying their best to win. Winning a scrim is not the point, but he's not saying that it is, so we'll be generous there. Okay. General scrim rules. You almost always use SATA scrim code. The code allows for both teams to ready up, add time in between rounds, and generate stats that are viewable after the scrim, as well as to any observers while the scrim is going on. Here's one such stat sheet for your team. Overstats. Are we going to click over to this? Okay. Be careful taking a long time to ready up. Remember, this is a scrim, not a VOD review. If you guys are not regularly getting 6 maps into 2 hours, you're taking too long to ready. Yeah, the standard is to get 6 maps in 2 hours, but I'd be very careful about this. I would be very careful of trying to further a culture of ready up quickly. It's really important that you ready up quickly. It doesn't surprise me that he got into this culture because he started scrimming pretty low down at 3,200 here, and down when you scrim low like that, and in the scrim world that is low. In the world of Overwatch, that's not low. Those are diamond players, but in the world of scrimming, that is pretty low. And in lobby scrims, teams absolutely get annoyed whenever anyone takes more than 30 seconds, 45 seconds to ready up. You can mostly just ignore them. You'll sometimes even run into this in GM scrims where some of the teams don't have coaches and they don't like it. But you have to remember, the point of a scrim is to get better, and while no, you can't go through a VOD review and spend 15 minutes between each map doing things, if you need to spend 2 minutes before a map, if you need to spend a minute 30 before a map, if you need to spend 5 minutes before one map going over stuff, that is totally fine. The point of a scrim is for your teams to get better, and it does not help if one team is just crushing the other team repeatedly, and the other team isn't able to improve, isn't able to have the solution to what's being used to beat them put in front of them. This is not an official. This is a scrim where you are trying to make your teams better, and where you're trying to go, hey, remember team, we're working on this week, or hey, the things that went wrong on this last map, the two fights I want to talk about real quick, and I can do that in 2 minutes, is this. And the one thing I want you to really remember going into this map is this, because our rollout wasn't very good on the map last time. You can absolutely do these things, and I mostly don't care if the other team throws a fit. Like, you have contenders coach permission to say, I don't care if the other team is throwing a fit. Does that mean there will be no consequences and that they 100% won't blacklist you? No, it doesn't. Ultimately, you have to deal with the realities of your action. But I guarantee you, even this is a little low for the scrim world. It's not bad by any means, but it's a little low even for it's not yet tier 3. It's still tier 4. They can get a little antsy over long delays before match starts. Don't do 5 minutes between every single map. Don't do that. But if you're regularly taking 2 minutes, 3 minutes between maps, minute 30, 2 minutes between rounds, that's not going to be a problem. That shouldn't be a problem, and if it is a problem, the other team doesn't understand the benefit of a scrim. Just going, okay, I gave you some coaching, I did a VOD review, and now you guys are on your own for 2 hours and just play like you're laddering for 2 hours. That's not what a scrim is. A scrim is about getting better. It is focused practice that is allowed to have, hey, let's reset, hey, let's re-bring your focus back onto this, hey, let's tell you what went wrong on this map, because I can guarantee you, if I try to tell you what went wrong on Lijiang Tower, 2 hours later, an hour and 45 minutes later, you're just not going to remember it at all. I can't go over the whole thing. I can't do a map review, but I guarantee you that it's okay in contenders lobbies, in tier 3 lobbies with real coaches, that's going to happen. And the reason that I can force my will down the ladder like this when it comes to scrims is these teams want to scrim against better teams. And this is the same reason that even though the world got uppity, the scrim scene got a little uppity about, oh, you shouldn't stagger divas. Contenders teams stagger divas. You want to scrim against contenders teams are going to stagger your divas. Deal with it. This is going to be much the same territory. Better teams are going to use their time between rounds. They're going to use times between rounds. They're still going to get 6 maps in. Deal with it. And they're going to get better faster. Do it. I promise. Okay. But that said, don't spend, 5 minutes between every map. Don't spend 15 minutes between maps without first saying, hey, someone needs a bio. Hey, we need to take a break. Something like that. Okay. Cool. That said, they do say if you're not regularly getting 6 in the 2 hours, you're taking too long. This I would generally agree with. You should at least get 5. You should generally get 6. You should not, however, be getting 7 maps. Generally, if you get to 6 maps, if you get to the point where you get to 6 maps and go, oh, hey, we could do another one, you're not using your time well enough. You're stomping the other team too hard, and it's not a good scrim. Or you're not doing a good distribution of map types. And this 6 is generally going to include King of the Hill at the beginning and King of the Hill at the end, because those are the fastest map types. And to fit 6 in, it generally has to be you start with this, which a lot of tournaments will also start with. And you finish with this, which will generally also be the map 5 if you go to a map 5, in part because it's fast, in part because it can't draw. So that's another reason that you do it like that. Okay. The standard might be different for lower scrims where more micro coaching is generally needed. No, he's backwards. His standard is wrong because he's in lower scrims. As you go higher, the standard becomes no, it's perfectly fine to spend more time between maps. As you go lower, teams get more annoyed when you do anything resembling coaching time. Okay. You only attack once. This is good. Both teams are allowed to attack all points. If you hold the team on Rialto first, the cart will just keep going, rolling, after you exceed the amount that the other team pushed the cart. This gives both teams a chance to practice their defense, even if the attack doesn't go well. And this throws some people off. You can occasionally break the rules on this and say, hey, let's do a performance scrim, and both teams opt into a performance scrim. You can also just run a performance scrim against the other team without them knowing, but in that case, you can't change how you run it. That said, 90% of the time, this is how you're going to do it, and even if you do a performance scrim, you can do it like this, and this is good, and people should understand that this is what happens. People can sometimes be confused in their first scrim when they're going second, and the cart pushes the point that the first round got it to. and the game doesn't end, and it's a little confusing. It can also be a little confusing because you don't get the meter count as it gets close to the box because of how the scrim code works and how it's not actually going to end the map. So that can be a little confusing to people, and I think you actually lose your meter codes on any checkpoints that are after it as well, which kind of sucks, but we haven't solved that problem yet. So that's just life. Just be aware of it if you scrim. No BM. Because the community for scrims is so small and scrims are only for improvement, there is never any benefit to tilting the enemy team. Teams and players that BM in scrims are usually blacklisted by their opponents and sometimes orgs as a whole. No. I can't wholeheartedly agree with this. Like, yes, teams blacklist each other. Unlike ladder, you can put someone on ladder on, avoid his teammate. You can put someone in scrims and, hey, manager, hey, captain, hey, whoever, we don't ever want to scrim that team again. Let's put them on our blacklist. And then when you're in the discords looking for a scrim, you go, oh, they're on our blacklist. We don't want to schedule a scrim with them. So yeah, there's absolutely the ability to blacklist teams. I would hesitate to blacklist over. It's not that I'd hesitate to blacklist over BM. Like, you've got to be careful with this. I don't want to create this. Every team has to be nice and perfect and friendly, and the world needs to be made of pillowcases and no hard edges, no hard corners. Like, the reality is, if it's a good scrim, it's a good scrim, and the scrim scene right now isn't so flush with opportunities that you can blacklist people for minor offenses. If someone spams the wave button, hiya, 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 as they're blinking around, you're probably not going to blacklist them. If they crouch, do some teabagging there, yeah, they shouldn't. I probably wouldn't recommend blacklisting them over that, to be perfectly honest. That says, is there going to be less BM in the scrim scene? In some ways, yeah. There's also going to be people who absolutely know each other and are just having a hoot taking shots at each other, and the rest of the players on the teams might not recognize that. So I'd say, treat that gently. It's like we absolutely have players up in collegiate, up in tier 2, up in tier 3 who are on opposite teams and, are, good pals, whatever, from ladder, from knowing each other, and will absolutely take shots at each other. And that happens. You also have players who don't know each other and will do things like throw up a question mark in chat when they take down someone that they really shouldn't have taken down because, like, wait, you had full health and cooldowns and I fought you with half health and I won, what's going on type thing. And that's a little bit of BM. You're not really going to blacklist anyone from your scrims from that, so I'd be careful. On the other hand, there absolutely is blacklisting that happens, sometimes over BM, sometimes over teams having beef with each other, even in contenders. There was a team that mostly Phase 2 didn't scrim against because of controversy from before my time, and eventually we fixed that, but I mostly found that annoying because they were a team that was worthy of scrimming against. That's not the norm. Just like owl teams don't go, oh, we're only exclusively going to scrim against owl teams, you'll generally scrim against who makes sense for you. You're generally going to scrim against who is a good opponent for you, even if it means scrimming against a contenders team, because they're better practice than the owl teams. That's what you'll do. Okay, you're going to scrim against a team that is a little bit of BM, just because the scrim pool isn't amazingly huge, and a little bit really doesn't hurt you. But that's okay. That's okay. I've set the following table to show how toxic things that you can do in scrim are generally perceived. BM, emoting after eliminating someone. I mean, that's just stupid, yeah. Shooting a player's corpse. Sure. Teabagging, you can get away with a little bit. Question mark in chat. You shouldn't be getting... You shouldn't be getting blacklisted off this. Off-rolling. Yes, it is, but the reality of off-rolling is if a team is off-rolling against you, it's because you haven't been able to make them stop. I've had Northeastern scrim against Trials and Contenders teams where they go, hey, this is really Trials we're talking about there, where, hey, they off-rolled. And they didn't off-roll because of BM. They off-rolled because both of us had canceled scrims, so we grabbed scrims with each other there, and they off-rolled. And they off-rolled because they're a Trials level team. They're a team that is on the cusp of being a Contenders level team, and the only way that they could self-balance the scrim was to off-roll. Could we have instead called off the scrim? Yeah, we absolutely could have. Were we like super offended that they off-rolled? No. They did that to self-balance the scrim, and both teams decided that that was a little bit better than not scrimming in that block. So I, again, am going to say, not totally sure I agree with this one. If a team is able to off-roll against you, it probably wasn't a good scrim for you guys to be in the first place, and you like blacklisting them doesn't really do anything, because you aren't blacklisting them for off-rolling at that point. You're going, wait, these guys aren't a good scrim for us, which is also something you should be building your list. Wait, we stomped these guys too hard. These guys advertise that they're higher scrim SR than they actually are. These guys advertise that they're lower scrim SR than they already are. Or maybe they generally are that scrim SR, but they can't handle our style while they can't handle other styles. So, like, that one I'm going to disagree with. Absolutely not. This is absolutely not BM. Okay, I have a video. Maybe I will link it when I finish this stream. Staggering is not bad manners. Staggering is not at all bad manners. Staggering is the same thing as spawn camping the enemy team in terms of that's how you play the game. You go, hey, this is what you would do in an official. You need to know how to do it for officials, so you practice it in scrims. If you don't stagger teams start to feel like rounds are longer than they are. They feel like, oh, there's time for 5 team fights in King of the Hill. No, there's actually only time for 4 team fights in a round of King of the Hill. That sort of thing. But they get that wrong impression, and they start to build a wrong calibration for how many fights they get because they're used to not getting staggered. This is absolutely not BM. And again, the higher you go, especially up into contenders, this is not considered this. And again, because the tier 3 teams, the good tier 3 teams, the trials teams want to scrim against contenders teams, contenders and ultimately Owl get to reign supreme on defining that this is not BM. There's more reasons that you shouldn't consider it BM. I gave you one of those, which is, hey, you start calibrating the wrong amount of what a fight is. But this is unfortunate. I'm disappointed to see really all 3 of these here, especially this one, to a lesser degree this one. This one I understand. This I don't really care about, but I know it bothers some people. Not readying up. That is not BM. That is not BM. This table is garbage. I'm sorry, but this table is garbage, and I don't like that we've now spent this much time talking about good manners when that is not the value of a scrim. Like, this witty first opening, I like it. This is fine. I like having this background that you went from here to here. Defining what a scrim is good. Defining how the SATA scrim code works and how the cart doesn't end and how both teams attack. That is good. I like that. I do not like how much space and time we've now spent on no BM when it's not that big of a thing in the scrim world. And also a lot of this is wrong. Not readying up is wrong. I already did my rant on that here. I have a separate video ranting on Diva staggering specifically, but it applies to staggers in general. I'm not going to go further here. Oh, we have you in chat. I see that. Got it. Okay, I am going to catch up. I see now 37 Overwatches in chat here. I'm going to assume this is him. Chat in general, I'm not going to catch up with you guys yet, but I am going to catch up with you here. Okay, so let me catch up. 37 says, oh, that's definitely something that I missed. Definitely an oversimplification. I don't know what that was in reference to. True, sometimes teams roll. That might have been in reference to my off-rolling thing here. I don't know. I guess when I said BM, I didn't really mean blacklist. I mean, but that's the only punishment, right? Like, the only punishment you have for someone BMing is, like, you're saying don't BM, and I'm saying, why not? I'm not really saying why not, but, like, this is a self-balancing technique. This actually teaches you how to play the game correctly for officials. This is often trolling between people that know each other. I guess when I said BM, I didn't really mean blacklist. I mean, that is the thing that you're worried about. If you do go, for example, if you do a ton of this, if you do this really at all, you could get BM. If you run out with absolutely wild comps that clearly aren't something you're actually practicing, yeah, those are sorts of things that get you blacklisted. That's something you didn't consider. You say, in the scrims I was in, and the scrims that I think lower people would play in, it's generally considered BM. I put it there because there are people who would consider it BM. Hello, that was about reading. The thing I missed. That was about reading. The things I missed. So you were responding to what I said about Definitely something I missed. Definitely oversimplification. Okay. You got to practice not getting mad, sort of. Okay. In the scrims I was in that I think lower people would play in, it's generally considered BM. I put it there because there are people who would consider it BM. There may be people who would consider it BM, but ultimately they lose. And I sort of explained how that hierarchy works and why they lose, and it might not be fair that they lose, but the reality is we're not about what's fair. We're about, can you get scrims? Do you enjoy the scrims? A little bit of the stuff on this side of the table really isn't, I don't personally consider that big a deal, but it doesn't matter whether I consider some of this stuff a big deal or not. Staggering, off-rolling, question mark in chat, these things, you're not going to have people left to scrim with if you're blacklisting off of these things. And I know you're saying you don't mean to blacklist. That was in regards to staggering, the thing you just read. Got it. Okay, cool. I'm going to continue through here. This has been helpful. I'll keep an eye on chat now since you're in there. 37. I actually fully agree with you on staggering, and I also agree that the table and stuff does take up too much space. Thank you. Cool. And it's not that it's a table that's bothering me. I just mean, like, if your guide is going to be this long, this is a lot of percentage of stuff, a lot of percentage of space to a lot of percentage of your writing, etc., and also a very early portion in your writing, which is higher value real estate, to spend on something that I have a lot of complaints about. Okay. However, be careful with saying anything in all chat. Sometimes the other team is tilted when you say something that you mean to be funny in all chat. Joking tone is lost in text chat, and other teams just take offense to it. I scrim without chat on, and I couldn't recommend it more. That's fine, but honestly, this shouldn't really be an issue in scrims. Like, I hope this is just a carryover from ladder. In scrims, I've generally found them not to be all that toxic. Nothing more toxic than maybe the occasional one of these or a question mark in all chat. It's a shame that you feel this is necessary, to be honest. Like, I, I've coached teams, at this level and at this level and in between, and like, I'm surprised it's generally not very toxic in all chat there. Everyone's actually having a pretty good time in scrims in general. Obviously, there's days where people are having a bad day. Their team is just getting rolled against a team that they don't usually get rolled against, but generally we don't see that coming to chat. But that's okay. I know him, so it's fine. Even if you know a player on the enemy team, you should probably not BM. As I like to say, keep the BM to DM. That's actually not bad advice, to keep the BM to DM, and you will see players will do that sometimes. That said, players who know each other, it generally becomes pretty clear even before the match started that they start haggling each other, or whatever you want to call it. And I send this like, this is good advice. I don't think it's the end of the world to break it, though. How do I join a team? The best way to join a team, in my opinion, is going through the looking for player channels in these servers. Competitive Overwatch's Discord, Elo Hell's Discord, Scrim Central Discord. There are many more servers with people who will post for teammates and some Reddits, but these are just to get people started. There's more out there. The central one for higher level teams is probably going to be the OW, but I believe that server is full. Let me just see if I want to add to this, because let me just think. Scrim Central. Our Overwatch might not have a team thing, but it's reasonable for finding scrims. I know that surprises people. Competitive Overwatch we got in here. Open Division. I think Open Division has opened a second Discord server. I'm in their primary Discord server because I think they're also full, but either one of those is also good. Okay. What do those ads even mean? Fair enough. Looking for posts can be confusing if you've never seen one before, so you annotated your old team's looking for post, okay? The only thing you might want to know is what every role plays. I've made a table for what every position is expected to play. Okay, you don't like Orisa, I see that. Main tank, Ryan Ball, Monkey with an E, Orisa, okay. Off tank, Diva, Sigma, Zarya, Diva. I like the Diva repetition, Hog and Diva. Cool, so this is good. Might actually be expected to be able to do a little bit more of this, because you might get some Ball Monkey combination type things. We covered Diva, Sigma, Zarya, Hog. Sure. Super emphasizing the Diva is good. We might be expected to be able to cover one main tank for like a super divey comp where we go Ball Monkey or something like that, because that does get run sometimes, but that's fine. Hit scan, Tracer, Ash, Widow, Reaper, Cowboy. Flux DPS, Doom, Genji, Pharah, Echo, Hanzo. I see no Symmetra on here, so you guys must not be scrimming because, like, almost every scrim I go to, people want to play King's Row, which, you know, you can play with what you're listing here, but they also want to play Lijiang Tower. I don't know why they want to play Lijiang Tower as much as they do, to be perfectly honest, but I find many teams, this is like the number one scrim. Everyone's going to pick this. It's a meme. This is probably the secondary one, and I don't see any Symmetra in either of these hero pools, so I'm going to object. Usually you'd expect your hit scan to be able to play Symmetra. You'd also, as you get better, probably expect your flex DPS to either be able to play Sombra or Tracer. Zen Ball is pretty common right now as a composition, and you're going to want to be able to play Tracer with Ashe or Tracer with Sombra or some combination that will require your flex DPS to be able to play a hit scan. Li Jiang is sick though, right? Or Mei. Yeah, no Mei here either is actually weird. Okay. Flex support. Batman Zen Moira, sure. Brig, Lucio, Mercy, maybe Bapper Zen. Okay, this is fine. These are the real three right here, and then usually they would add Bap to their pool to complement the flex support so that they could go Zen Bap in a composition that truly went heavy on support poke. But yes, this is good. Tiny little asterisk objection here. I think we needed to fill out something more here. We definitely needed a Mei, and then we needed to fill out something more here. Maybe it's adding Sombra over here. Maybe it's adding Tracer down here. Maybe it's adding Sombra down here. If we were to prioritize these in terms of importance, we would move Echo way over here. We would move Genji way over there. It's a nice dream. It's a nice dream of flex DPS to play Genji, but it's not happening. I'd probably get a Junkrat or a Torb in here somewhere. I'm not kidding. And again, I need something that's hit scanny, a Tracer, a Sombra, an Ashe. I need something like that in this pool, actually. Okay. But the rest of this table is great. Other than, not liking Orisa. Don't be mean to Orisa. She has feelings too. The links in the table are to a funny Astro clip where he talks about what the difference is between hit scan and flex DPS and basically says that there is none and people just play DPS now. Okay, good. Good thing to include. This is true when most DPS players can play everything. That's what they think. But most teams will still advertise hit scan flex depending on what heroes they need players to fill. Generally, how this has evolved is not that you actually expect your hit scan to be able to play everything. You actually do expect your hit scan to be moderately specialized. And the truth is, you tend to get a hit scan that's either really good at Tracer or a hit scan that's really good in like Widow, Ashe, ranged hit scan, McCree maybe. You tend to get a hit scan that's better at one of these two things than the other, and you ride with it and you hope the meta goes in your favor, to be perfectly honest. Like they should be able to play all of them, but that just tends to be how people actually work. And you do have an expectation. Well, I added Sim to the hit scan pool. You do have a real expectation that your flex can play at least one or two hit scan heroes. Okay. 37 says, yeah, I didn't list all the heroes because it was a general idea and I didn't want the table to be ugly. Yep, I get it. It would have made your table long. Okay. I want to try organized play, but I'm not sure if I want to commit to a team. We're going to talk about ringing, aren't we? The best way to explore the scrim environment is by ringing. Ringing is essentially helping a team out for one scrim and playing instead of the player that they usually have in that spot. Generally, the best way to ring is by going to the looking for ringer post in the same discords. You link how to read the post. It's just you're going to be looking for ringer. It's going to list the time. It might list the platform. It might list the region. Doesn't really matter. That's fine. What is Scrim SR? Ooh, this will be fun. This will be fun. This is the Scrim community's open secret. Everyone is scrimming up. If you looked at a low diamond Scrim, 3100 SR, I can almost guarantee that the average SR of the player is 2800, and most of them will be plat players. If you look for a Scrim at your actual SR, you will stomp the other team. This has gotten worse over time. The reason that this exists in the first place is actually because of teams like the team that this guy was on. I can pretty much guarantee you, I don't know that, and maybe 32 will correct us, 37 will correct us here. I can pretty much guarantee you that these guys maybe not actually didn't start here, but let's pretend that these guys actually started and all the actual players were around 3200 SR. Maybe some of them were 3400, some of them were 3100, maybe someone was 2900, whatever. But then they built synergy, they got good as a team, they did all those things, and now they can beat, as they've also gotten better over time, but they've gotten better over time to the point where the true average of their SR is maybe 3,800. We'll go with that. 3,800. But these guys have a ton of synergy. They played together mostly as the same six people, mostly, for the course of a year. They know how to do fake rotations. They know how to swap between compositions and have been playing together long enough that they can actually swap between a dive composition, a six-man dive composition, a brawl composition pretty seamlessly, and everyone really remembers how to do those things. And that is not what a team of people who go, hey, we're all 4,100 players and we're new to scrimming, or we're new as a team. And because we're new as a team, we're actually going to play without a lot of synergy advancement. So the 3,800 team potentially wins there because they have these 3,800 things. So then, yes, they do scrim at a 4,100 level. And that actually makes sense because they have to advertise at that level to get opponents, even if these people can outmuscle them individually. They understand you can outmuscle us, but you can't outmuscle us when our harmony orb placement is better, so our tracer isn't going to be outmuscled, where your Zen is distracted, too distracted, fragging, etc. So like this made sense, and this was a thing that in some ways was bound to happen. It sounds like the existence of this type of thing happening, though, has over time corrupted it to the point where everyone is pretending to scrim up when it doesn't really make sense. When really what should happen is the 4,100 team at this point should probably just be going, shoot, we lose when we scrim against other 4,100 teams. We're going to have to scrim against 3,900 teams for a while. That's probably what should have happened to some degree. I think some level of, hey, we can play up was fine, but it's probably happened to too great a degree based on what we've seen here. It wasn't always this bad, or it wasn't always as bad as what I think we're looking at here. Community's open secret. Everyone is scrimming up. If you looked at low diamond scrim 3100 SR, I can almost guarantee that the average SR of players is 2800, and most of them will be pat players. If you look at a scrim at your actual SR, you will stomp the other team. And 037 says exactly correct. Yep. So what does this mean to people looking for their first team? You might want to try to go for a team that's scrimming at your current SR to get your feet in the water, and then go a little higher to a team whose average is around your current SR for a real challenge. Yep, definitely an option. This has always been a thing. Look at this bingo card from season 10. I want to see it. 003. Okay. 03. Looking for scrim 4K plus, Team SR 3500. Yes, it's always been a bit of a thing. I think it's gotten worse. Like I've been around the scene. I left the scene for about a year or so, came back. I think it has gotten worse, to be perfectly honest. Some of that, though, of why it will have gotten worse, will be because the value of synergy has gone up. The value of actually we've practiced, we understand the strats, we understand this, the level of tactical depth and strategic depth that people have gotten into, the amount that you can have in your playbook of we can do an alpha dive, we can do a peel dive, we can seamlessly transition into Widow Tracer. Now we can go do, our Doomfist Orisa comp, and we can do those things, and that's there, and we have our answers to what you're doing has gone up in value because we've gone deeper. So some of that makes sense. Okay. What is the biggest downside of scrimming? Okay. Every scrim you play with the same players, so if anyone is doing anything that you don't like, you have to deal with that every scrim. Right, but you can deal with them because you're a human being and we can talk to each other, and there's actually some level of they have to deal with you again in the future, or you can find separate teams. As with most things in life, the best way to solve this is communication. I'm not sure I completely agree with the where we're going with this in general for the best in life in general. But yes, for scrimming, absolutely, it's a team. You're going to work with them, sure. It's not that I wildly disagree with that. I'm just not sure I'd have editorialized there. But I editorialize all the time, so whatever. This is something you have to learn to be better at. Yep. People sometimes need this, especially younger people who haven't worked in team environments need this, especially young people, or especially people who either haven't worked in team environments or people who haven't worked in competitive environments. You can drag someone along in a group project and it's not too painful in school. You can drag someone along in, hey, they're on your team at work and it sucks and you're doing more work than you should have to, but you can drag them along because the reality is your job was scoped out not for the person who's giving 100% effort, but for the person who's giving about 60% effort. It was, guys, sorry. Or 100% ability versus average ability, however you want to think about that. So yeah, when you're doing it in something competitive, the other people are also very into it. They're being competitive. You tend to have to actually go hard, and that means you have to actually solve these issues. You can't just be like, oh, it's okay, maybe we'll work around it, or maybe it'll eventually go away. I'll just be not happy about it. I don't like it. Yeah, you do actually have to deal with this stuff. And you deal with it interpersonally if it's actually affecting you. If it's not, don't go pick at every issue and turn things that aren't issues into issues on the same token. Okay. You need to be able to talk to the person that's causing you problems or you will not have a fun time scrimming. Sure, it's not like comp where you can both just drop and avoid and go your separate ways. That is true. This is also where I would like to mention that the attitude you take into scrims will determine how much fun everyone else is allowed to have, and if you're a toxic person, you're going to have a difficult time finding a team. Yep, that's true. Your attitudes are contagious in general when you're hanging out with other people. It's one of the reasons why we become like those people, we like the people that we spend time with. Okay, cool. It's the biggest upside of scrimming. You learn how the game is actually supposed to be played. Yes, and it is amazing. You get to bond with other cool people. Yeah, it's like doing sports. It doesn't quite release exactly the same endorphins and such that you'd get with a sport, but you get to do something with other people that you're enjoying, that they're enjoying. That's fun. We've known that sort of thing is fun for ages. That's what rec leagues are about. You can think of this as like you're going, even if you're never going to play an Overwatch league, this is like a rec league of sorts. If this is your adult rec soccer league or your booze baseball league or whatever the case may be. It's rewarding. You personally experienced a lot of personal growth because of the people that play on a team has allowed me to meet. Sure. It's so much fun. Am I willing to click on proof here? Oh, it's a YouTube? No, we're not going to watch a video here. Okay. If you haven't scrimmed this game, I would say that you really haven't played it. Overwatch is so much better when two organized teams are giving it their all. If you have any questions about this post, feel free to ask them in the comments. I promise to reply to every message on this post in the next 3 days. Quick, guys, let's flood him. Let's make him break his promise. I'm kidding. That said, I did link his post in the description of this video, so if you have questions for 37 here, you can definitely hop over there. If you like what he wrote here, you can give him some upvotes. All the things that I had more to say on but didn't go into for the purpose of this can be found here. Is this going to be another video or a text document? Okay, it looks like probably a text document. I don't know. Also, I want to add that I'm not really an authority on scrims. That's okay. You put a guide up here. Good stuff. You're just some doofus who likes them and thinks they should be more popular. They absolutely should be. They are the best way to play the game. Blizzard, hot take, made a mistake by caving and implementing solo queue. Their original plan was that, no, you have to queue as 6 people. Quick play maybe you could do as a solo person, but any sort of real thing, you were going to have to queue as a team of 6. And they backed away from that, before release in the beta, etc. But, that is clearly how the game was designed. You can see the bones, the architecture of how the game was designed that way, and it is so much more fun that way. If you can find a team that scrims, regular scrims, you don't absolutely hate playing with the other people, you enjoy your schedule with them, and your scrims aren't just regularly getting canceled because your opponent drops out, or you crush your opponents not just once or twice, but every time, or they crush you every time, you can't find good scrims, okay, fine, don't scrim. And it is harder the lower on the ladder you go to find good scrims, but if you can make the time commitment to do it, because You all play enough Overwatch to make the time commitment to do it. It's just, can you find that structured time to do it? And what was I saying? It's not like, oh, you reserve that time and then you get canceled on every time and it's a waste of time like that. You should absolutely script. That said, the one caveat I will drop is do not over attach yourself to your team. If you get better much faster than the rest of your team, there is no need to stay on your team. If your team is more casual than you are, that's fine. You go on. If your team gets better faster than you can swap and go find another team. Don't be attached to a team forever. That would be the one thing I'd say there. But scrimming is awesome even at low levels as long as you can get reliable scripts. I'm sure if you want to find a more dense guide, you can find one from someone who is much more of an authority on the subject. All good. No, please. That was probably in response to us flooding him with comments. Okay. Definitions, blacklisted. I know what blacklisted is. I feel like we know what blacklisted is. Things that you want to add more. Staggering. Generally, staggering is shunned on in the community because it is seen as BM. The community is wrong. You're not totally wrong that the community sees it this way, but the community is wrong and be the change you want to see in the world. The other reason that is often given for not staggering is that a scrim is about learning and you're decreasing the amount of fights we have on this point when you stagger. Yeah, we are, and you better calibrate yourself to how long a round actually lasts. You don't get that extra team fight on King of the Hill. This part is personal opinion. This rule is complete. And both reasons are terrible, but it is what we have, and we follow it while it's still popular. No, because that continues to make it popular. We've actually turned the page on this. The community is starting to accept that this is right. They went rogue. The community literally went rogue and tried to do this in tier 3 scrims, and us authorities on the subject, I guess, just weren't looking, didn't notice, and when we caught it, we've done a pretty good job of shining a light on the fact that the tier 3 community and the tier 4 community had let this become their norm, and you had myself and a lot of other pros comment on it and go, that's not how it's done, guys. And we've stomped this out enough. It's still absolutely there, but we've stomped this out enough that you're not going to be out of place flying the banner by yourself if you go, no, we're going to stagger you. That's how it's done. Like, you absolutely. I'm glad that 37 saw this, or maybe he changed this while we were reading his thing. But I'm glad that 37 has this opinion. Good for him. But these are garbage. This would have been a hard hill to perhaps die on maybe 6 months ago. It shouldn't be that hard right now. We saw what was happening. We mostly came back and laughed at it, including my Yes, You Stagger and Scrims Diva video, which you can find on the channel. For what each role plays, we've got the clip. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and catch up on chat. Contenders absolutely staggers, yes. And tier 3 teams want scrims. Tier 2.5 teams and tier 3 scrims want scrims with tier 2 teams. So guess what? They're going to accept the contenders team staggering. And when they realize why the contenders team stagger, they're going to start to stagger. It works its way down the ladder. Okay, I'm going to catch up on chat. I am going to scroll back up to the top, so we're going to be doing a little bit of a time loop here. And after we catch up on chat, maybe we'll look at the comments here. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. If you're looking to get coaching, you can join my Discord. You can also join my Discord if you want to get pings when I go live. You can join the Discord. Not everyone gets pings. You can choose whether you want pings or not by going down to get roles, get notifications maybe, react to become a watcher, and then you'll get pings when I go live, and you can see what topic we're covering. Like, oh, we're covering a basic scrim guide today. Great. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what is it like to scrim? Should you be scrimming? Yes, you should. As well as, what are Temporal's thoughts on this topic? All that. Okay, so catching up on chat. Crunch says, got off Yazuka 0, about to sleep, and then Temporal starts streaming. Yep, I'm here to keep you EU guys and UK guys awake at odd hours. That's my job. Nerd stuff. Scrimming is for nerds. Yeah. Solo Q, Master Q. No, Solo Q is the gym. Scrims are your team workout, Solo Q is the gym. You were just reading the post when you got the notification. Nice, Scatter. Finally made it to the beginning of a stream. Nice, Dan. Just checked out that Reddit thread. Happy Reddit Cake Day. Is it their Reddit Cake Day or is it my Reddit Cake Day? Oh, there we go. Cake Day. Hey, We'll take it. Maybe because it's cake day, you guys are all going to go through and upvote my post. Maybe? Maybe not. Okay. Scream is for nerds. Sometimes teams troll. True. You're bald. Adam has weird eyes. Fortunately, he's a little better at Overwatch than seeing. Not the best ever at Overwatch, but a little better at Overwatch than he is at seeing. Okay. Vast majority of staggering is on your team anyways. True. True. I would like to blacklist my own team. uh, Lamau with the question mark in all chat. In my experience, if one person is BMing, it's fine, but if the entire enemy team is BMing constantly, we would just not scrim them. Yep. Nothing wrong with a little BM in scrims. Catbox, yeah, a little BM in scrims is a little bit of BM in scrims is fine. Absolutely. It's really like the BM isn't really the bother in scrims. That you're actually not going to see that much about it because people aren't going to be tilted the same way that they're going to be on ladder, so it's just not going to happen in some ways. The real thing that gets teams blacklisted is, hey, they were 20 minutes late to start. Hey, they are constantly late to the, they're constantly late to the scrims. They wanted to bail 30 minutes early type thing, or we won 3 maps in a row and they were close wins, and then they canceled the rest of the scrim. Like, we won, yeah, but they were close wins that we were still getting value out of the scrim, and then they bailed on us. Those are the things that are more likely to get you blacklisted. They're running just an absolute joke comp, which you have to be a little careful with because sometimes weird comps are being tried for legitimate reasons, but some comps that just look like jokes can get you in a little bit of hot water. And you should also understand, just because someone is a good scrim match for you one day doesn't mean that they're not going to play worse or better on a different day. So, like, it just happens. You'll be scrimming even in contenders, even against someone that's a good match for you, and you might go 3-3 one day and go 5-1 the next, or 1-5 the next. It happens. Teams are different. Their mentals are going to be in different places, and they are going to be working on different things. It is a scrim. It is practice that you're looking at there. It's not always a performance scrim, which would be the full try hard, just do your best to win thing. There was this one Winston who spun around 420 revs per second on your corpse after eliminating you. You weren't offended, only impressed. Fair enough. You should blacklist your own team for always staggering themselves. Okay, I guess you got to that joke before I did. Well, really, we've had that one. Staggering is a bit obnoxious, but it's absolutely not BM. I agree. Yep, Alex. That's Alex. You got to practice not getting mad. Little bit. People will often throw a fit in Plat Diamond scrims if anyone says anything at all in chat. That's lame. But they also throw fits about taking, 2 minutes between rounds, a minute and a half between rounds to go over, not like everything, but go over, like, I want to say this one thing to this one player, this other thing to this other player, and then remind our team that the thing they need to do on this map is X, Y, or Z. Like, I don't care. I don't care that they're upset. It's a scrim. It has to get value, and I would rather get value out of the scrim than be like, okay, and now we're going to talk about all these things at the end, and the players are burned out and really don't remember anything. Like, that's not good training. It's good training. It's much better training, and this is also why I do VOD reviews before scrims, short ones. It's much better training to give people training, give people something to work on, and then let them work on it. Not to go, yes, I'll get my notes, I'll get all my notes from the scrim, and then at the end of the scrim, well, I don't want to do it then, I'm going to wait to the next day, and then I'm going to tell them 6 maps worth of things. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're never going to truly tell them 6 maps worth of things for them to go over, but even if you're just giving like 2 players one thing, or you're giving the team 2 things in general of like, hey guys, you took that team fight, you used 4 ults, what are you doing? They didn't use any, you just need to call your ults better, or there was no ult tracking going on, or hey guys, we didn't control the third lane. Like, we played into double shield with a Zen ball comp. Of course they're going to have 2 lanes, they have 2 shields, and we tried to fight them in 2 lanes with our Zen ball comp. What are you doing? You have to take 3 lanes if you're going to beat them. Like, things like that, where you need to cover it. BM is inherently funnier when you have an audience. Gotta disagree. Our Overwatch is good for looking for others. We used to have scrims, but unfortunately, your consistent playing teams had a falling out. Unfortunate, unfortunate. Diva, diva, diva. Right? May needed to be there, yeah. Isn't Tracer usually flex DPS now with Sombra on hit scan? No. Sometimes you'll put your flex DPS on Tracer, but the reality is elite Tracer play is a thing, and your flex DPS probably doesn't have it. So you might go, hey, we're running Ashe Tracer, and we want our elite hit scan on Ashe. Also, because they might be a better ranged hit scan player than Tracer player, and you might go, okay, we want to do that, and therefore we'll have our flex fill on Tracer. But the reality is, it's actually not that common that if you're running Tracer Sombra that you put your hit scan on Sombra, to be perfectly honest. It's really not. Because your hit scan player should have a better tracer than your flex player. If not, it might not because just the team you were able to build, who you were able to get together. But as you get, especially to the higher levels in scrims where you have more options for who to pick, you should be able to get your hit scan player should be better at tracer, to be perfectly honest. That doesn't mean that they're always going to play tracer, but it's more important to have your tracer be better than your Sombra be better in most situations. Also, your Sombra has more ult power, so your Sombra has more ult power, which than most hits can do. When you think of real ult power, you don't think of Widow, you don't think of Ashe, you definitely don't think of Kree and Soldier. When you think of ult power, you think of more things like Mei and Genji and Sombra's EMP. Oh wait, that's a nice carryover right there. That's pretty interesting. But you also are going to go, hey, it's pretty rare that you make your hit scan take a really heavy comms role on a team. Because again, the aim requirements, I don't want to say they're more precise, but you tend to get rewarded better as a team for them being less distracted than you do for your flex DPS being less distracted. I'm not saying you don't ever want to distract your flex. I'm not saying your flex DPS doesn't get benefits out of not being distracted, but I'd rather distract them with a little bit more in the comm rolls on most teams. It absolutely depends on the people than I would my hit scan in terms of the value that you're going to get out of that. And Sombra is a very vocal player, has to be a very vocal player, more so than a Genji, a Pharah, an Echo, a Mei type might even be, though a Mei should be pretty vocal. So you have that because your Sombra, a lot of the value that they're providing is the scouting that they're doing. They're scouting for your team. They're staging their own dive for free. Like those are valuable things that I don't necessarily want to put that distraction on my tracer. Tracer, are they still going to have to do scouting information? Are they the best scout on the board when you don't have Sombra in? Yeah, usually. But if I'm going to run both, I'm usually going to do it like this, to be honest. That said, there's absolutely teams really go, nope, the Flex DPS's Tracer is pretty good. Their Sombra is bad. The hit scan Sombra is very good. Great, do it. Where are all the pair specs? Are you telling me? Are you telling me it wasn't a popular pick for scrims? Right? Right? Flex generally plays Tracer or Sombra more often? No, yeah. Flex will generally be able to play Tracer or Sombra, potentially both. You could also see Flex include like an Ashe and then the hit scan play Tracer. Both of those are totally possible. It really depends on the two DPS players you have. I don't necessarily agree with DPS has become all DPS can play anything. I do agree that the expectation has become that your hit scan can play all the hit scans, and that includes Reapers, that includes Symmetras, that might even include something like a Junkrat or something, or a Torb even. Your Flex is going to be able to play basically all of the Flex, all of the projectile heroes, plus one or two hit scans. Everyone wants to play Ninja Boy. They're dreaming. Silver Saxophone says, in my experience, scrimming sub 4K, the Flex DPS pool usually winds up being covered by 2 or more DPS. Sure. Why do people throw winnable games right at the end? That is the question for the ages, Nardstorm. Top left of the bingo is a free space. Start up to 20 minutes late. No, none of this up to cop out. 10 minutes is sort of automatic and we don't like it. But like up to 20 minutes, 20 minutes is too long, but like you can't go up to because then 1 minute late would be part of up to 20 minutes late. No. Your personal strategy for solving things with people is not to communicate, but to bend over backwards to make them happy and just build up resentment and anger over the use towards them. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, Deleted C says I've been using the group finder tool in game for 6 stacks, and my win rates have gone up just because we almost always have levers or toxic. We never have levers or toxic people. Interesting, interesting. That's surprising to hear at this point in Overwatch's lifespan. Deleted. Maybe that just means there's no 6 stacks queuing up on the other side. Your team does controlled trolling, Geomancer. Like we play here as we want, but try hard. Yeah, sometimes fun things happen. Sure, sure. That was really fun to watch. Oh, 37. Did you just? Oh, that's a different 37. There's two 37s now. I'm so confused. That was really fun to watch. I will say that a lot of the stuff that generated the BM stuff was because, for me personally, a lot of people took it upon themselves to throw your games and harass you around the ladder. I get it, and that's a great reason to go scrim in the first place. But I don't actually find you're that worried about running into that much BM in scrims. But maybe you had a different experience because you did well in scrims, and then we had blacklisted them because we have 6 people harass you all the times. Wait. A lot of the stuff that generated the BM stuff was because, for me personally, a lot of stuff took it upon themselves to throw my games and harass you on the ladder because you did well in scrims, and then you had to blacklist them because 6 people harass you all the time. Sure, if they're harassing you on ladder because you're beating them or losing to them or whatever in scrims, absolutely, you should then blacklist them. Yeah, but that isn't a normal situation based on my experience. Basically, what started the issue was you played Widow on Havana and had a good map, and people got mad in all chat and typed drop the ego, focus on the grind. So just throw a question mark at them. If they start trolling you, you just throw a question mark at them and click their head and move on. Like, come on. You know how to do it. And it led to all that. Also just randomly swapped to another account. Yeah, that threw me for a second, but it's still 37, so we got it. Slack says, what up, gamers? How do you feel about people that hard cut off scrim at 5 maps, even if there's another 30 to 45 minutes left? There's a special place down below for them. Now, I'd be annoyed. Like, I'm going to be annoyed if a team hard cuts off at 5 maps, even if there's 30 to 45 minutes left. That said, if they got through 5 maps and you really have 30 to 45 minutes left, either you started on time or early, congratulations, but more likely, even if you started on time, one team was probably winning pretty hard if you got to a situation where you have 30 to 40 minutes, 45 minutes left, and only one map left to play for a standard scrim. Like, a team is winning pretty hard and they probably went 5-0. You don't really care about the score, but they probably went 5-0, and what's really happening is they probably don't feel like the scrim is useful to them and they want the time back, and this is the earliest they can cut out without being rude. And you might say, hey, that's still being rude, but this would sort of be considered, hey, they played 5 maps, this is the earliest they can cut off without being a complaint that you can take to the community in general and have a bad mark against them. Like, if you complain, hey, back channels, managers are talking to each other, yeah, that team cuts off after 3 maps all the time, someone can end up on your blacklist before you've even played them. It's going to be harder to end up on someone's blacklist before you've even played them for this, and this should only happen if one team is winning super hard, to be perfectly honest. Now, if they go, no, we only want to play 5 maps when there's 10 minutes left in the scrim, I guess that's a little more okay, but I still don't like it. I'd like to play 1 to 2 of the points on the final control map. Had that happen to me many, many times, and it just aggravates the crap out of you. Okay, well, were they one-sided rounds? Either you were crushing them or they were crushing you? Your experience with looking for a group is always bad? Yeah. No problem, 37. You want to add your earlier comment to say that we don't troll for 5 to 6 map, but having a map where we do unorthodox thing can be fun and influence future straps? Sure, sure. Hope Overwatch 2 allows you to leave sooner after the game ends. There's a stupid delay in clicking the leave game option. Question mark is a good strat. There you go. There you go. You get interrogated based on your stats and looking for group. It's so awkward. Okay. Okay. I think that does it. We'll do one quick refresh here. I can see mainly just defensive scrims in general, 0-0 draws and hybrid every time. Oh, really? That's interesting. I'm surprised that that's leading to 5 maps then. Huh. Okay, any comments here that are super interesting before we wrap up? Fantastic guide, scrimmed weekly, high point of the week. I can see that. Two things I would add is network of people to scrim with. Yep. It helps avoid absolute stomps. It does not completely get rid of them. Try not to burn bridges. As you mentioned, word gets around. I found with my team, if we were stomping 3-0-4-1, we would ask, do you want to keep going? If the other team is losing interest, there is no point in rubbing salt in the wounds. No, I want the practice. I want the practice. And if we're crushing you 3-0-4-1, 4-1 isn't even a crush, by the way. That can be a valid scrim for both sides. This can even be a valid scrim for both sides, depending on what you're looking at. Yeah, I want the practice, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to keep scrimming, and I'm not going to give them an easy out because I'm afraid they'll take it. If we're absolutely crushing them, that's different, but yeah. Okay, here's our post. Really good intro to scrims, good stuff. Sounds scary, bad manners. How is staggering BM? Oh, the staggering discussion. Uh-huh. Listed the two reasons here, but you completely agree with them. Yep, you messed up staggers in multiple tournaments, including the grand finals. There you go. If you want to practice staggers in a scrim, it's usually common etiquette to just ask beforehand. You get a downvote because you're wrong. And if both teams agree to it, the stagger will stagger if the opportunity is there. And if you guys are going temporal, you're using downvote wrong. You're supposed to, they're contributing. It's not supposed to be a disagree button. Maybe, but too bad. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Nope. Yep. Okay. Now, why is staggering considered BM when it's a perfectly viable strat? Scrims are to be taken more seriously, sort of. Why are they not open to the strat? Not being critical language, just would like to know the reason. Uh-huh. Can teams get easily shut out of scrims? All it would take is one full pro stagger team to use that nuclear option, and then everyone else will have to follow suit, and it will become so normal in short order that people won't be mad about it. Which is basically what happens. Um, it's hard to infinite stagger teams, especially with the diva changes. It's even harder to stagger teams that bad, and you do have to be a fair bit better than them. Though you can get some advanced staggers, but it's usually not the first skill that you polish. Like it's a skill that's worth polishing, but it's not the first skill that you polish as a team. Spawn camping is a better skill to polish than staggering in a lot of situations. You're going to come up with your normal, hey, what's your neutral look like? How do you use these ult combos? Like you have a lot of things to work on before you get there. This unfortunately is somewhat true, but too bad. Yeah, I love it. I love it that everyone is fighting this point. We have trained you well. And this, I'm not going to keep going through and upvoting them, but what we're looking at here is this is basically the evidence of what I'm saying is we've actually done a pretty good job of pushing this back. I would have said this was true, say, maybe 6 months ago. It was wrong then, but we just weren't aware of it. And now we've done a pretty good job of pushing it back. And you see the community is aware that it's stupid and is going, wait, no, other people are doing it. Contenders players, as we had someone say in chat here, are doing it. And yes, they absolutely are. Owl players are doing it. Good tier 3 teams are back to doing it. You get the idea. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And that's the hit scan played Symmetra post. Okay, cool. BM is always a good strat. Like BM is 25 or playing Reddit Lucio. Something like that. Team's just a lot better on defense. Okay. Right, losing can sometimes teach you more than winning. Losing usually teaches you more than winning, but you want it to be close. But don't get me wrong, you can walk away from a 4-2 scrim or even a 5-1 scrim that was a perfectly valid scrim for both teams. You absolutely can. And if the coach on this side knows what they're doing, they might shift what they're having their team work on a little bit and bring their focus over to something else. They might not, because they might want to keep the focus on what their original plan was because it was better, but like these do not mean it was a bad scrim necessarily. Like I've been on this side or even this side of these scrims a lot, and this does not mean that we're not getting value out of the scrim. Wait, what's the argument? Don't stagger the enemy? Like staggering is literally a tactic or staggering payload point. Like don't stagger the enemy is what they're talking about. And tier 3 and tier 4 got it in their head for a bit that like, oh, don't stagger in scrims, and it's incredibly foolish. But they got it in their head, and like I said, we've tried to stomp it out. There's if you ever run into someone that believes that, you can keep my video saved as a bookmark. My yes, you stagger in scrims video. You can look up Stagger and Scrims on my channel. Just do a quick search there. I'll probably link it in this one because we've talked about it a few times now. And you can have that bookmarked. And there's your ammunition. You can link it to anyone who says, you can't stagger in scrims, anything like that in any of your scrims. I recommend it. For instance, you've had scrims against lower rated teams where you won solely because you out microed the other team. Sure. Earlier tonight, a team tried to stagger me, and you got a 2K remake to win the round. Yep, and that'll happen because they haven't practiced their staggers adequately. This was honestly nice to see because where I scrim, a lot of people saw staggering exclusively as BM. Yep, nice to see it change. Good stuff. Totally agree. Make them feel angry that the healer is out dueling you as DPS. How did they think that? That's stupid. Art of War, bro. I know. Okay. I think we're caught up here, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if you guys are enjoying the content, please do drop a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't. If you'd like to catch more of these live, where I'm doing reviews of people's gameplay, or I'm doing reviews of pro games, where I'm doing reactions to, reviews of other people's guides, walkthroughs, things like that, any of that, best way to do that is also to join the Discord and then go ahead and scroll down to get notifications, reacts to become a watcher. You can get pings, see what we're talking about. If you want to be here, if you want to pick a former contenders coach's brain, all that good stuff. We've got a pretty cool community here. But that's going to do it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.